Hi, I'm Dom from Audio Anomalies, and in this video I'll be showing you how you can make a piece of music that is very upbeat and quite similar to the sort of music you'd probably find in games like The Sims. This is the sort of stuff that would usually be used in like a create a sim menu or building menu within the game. It's got that kind of happy feel to it. It's quite a simplistic track, and with this style of music for a game, you don't want it to be kind of like too much going on. So it's all about getting a balance and keeping it nice and balanced, but also with, not too many musical elements to it. So we'll start the video by letting you listen to the song from the beginning. So there you go. So it's got a really kind of upbeat, happy feel to it. It's quite a light feeling song, which is what I wanted. But one of the main important things with this type of music, if you want to use it for like kind of like menu music in a game, is make sure that it's loopable. So within the developer's game engine, they're going to be able to loop the song with it not sounding too jarring. Although some game developers, if you're doing kind of sound design for them on music, they may want it, the individual parts, so they can kind of mix and layer it up how they want within their audio game engine. The driving force of this track is actually the xylophone. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've got some fond memories of playing the xylophone at school when I was a child. So for me, this kind of already has kind of a happy kind of sound to it with the xylophone. And it is quite a nice sounding percussion instrument to be able to make these very kind of plinky plunky kind of sounds. And that is another key factor in this type of track. And that is to actually have a lot of kind of plucky strings. Like a lot of the strings are pizzicato strings, which kind of that really kind of plucky sound. Let's just have a look at the cello layer. I'm not sure how loud some of these layers are, but we'll have a quick look at this one. That's with the xylophone. Let's have it without. It is one that's panned. So I think we've panned that with a violin pizzicato on the right. Now, another thing about this song that kind of gives it that kind of happy feel is the musical notes that we've chosen. And they're quite simplistic, really, and they're all major notes. There's no minors in here, because if we are starting to add the black keys in, it can really add more of a sinister sound. At least that's how I feel with the kind of minor keys. Quite a sinister sound. So you get a totally different feel for a track by choosing the right musical notes. And it is also instrumentation as well. So as I've said, we've chosen a lot of pizzicato strings. And in this instance, we're using a lot of the Project Sam strings in this particular project. There are some in here you can see which are in the NNXT sampler, are from the Reason Orchestral Sound Bank, and they're also pretty good, but the recording quality of the cinematic or Project Sam strings are going to be kind of maybe a lot better for this type of thing. So next up, we're going to have a look at the percussion rhythm, and then we'll go through some of the other instrumental elements as well. So the percussion is from the Reason kit. So it is a percussion set, percussion kit GM. It's got a nice kind of sound to it. We're using a mixture of shakers, conga bongos, and a few other little elements as well, such as the flex tone in there and the guro, if that's how you say it. I never can say that percussion instrument. It's the one that you kind of got the scrapey sound to it. And to accompany that, we've got a bass line that is, again, a pizzicato bass, which is quite a plucky sound. Let's play the bass on its own just so you can hear it. So quite nice warm tones with still a little bit of the original kind of plucking sound in the string, which is what I like about some of these orchestral instrument recordings that are within Reason. And then when we play that with the percussion, you can see that the kind of bongo and conga rhythm that we got in there really do complement the bass line. So the kind of woody mid-range of the percussion really helps piece together the bass line. So if you think of like a kick drum has got that low end in it, but to make it work, you've got to have a decent mid and high range within it to hold it all together. And this is what this percussion is doing. So the percussion actually sounds quite punchy, but there's no kick drum or anything in there doing the really low end. And then that gives us a little bit of space for some of the other instrument elements. So we've actually got some brass in there as well, which is quite a warm sound. Other elements that we're using in this is a flute. In the section where the brass comes in just to lift the section here, which on its own doesn't sound like very much, but it's just an extra layer of something quite high. The only thing you've got to be careful with flutes, if you're using flutes, if we just take a look at the kind of EQ I'm using, I've taken a lot of the high end and mid range off it, and I'll kind of show you why in a second. Let's play it on its own first. very soft sound, and I think it really complements the plucky strings. If I play it though without the equalizer, we'll also take the reverb off it as well, which also kind of softens the sound down a little bit by making it go back in the mix a little bit. Just be aware though that if you've got your headphones turned up, you just might want to turn it down a little bit for this, because it might be a little bit harsh. Notice there's some really kind of high pitch frequencies coming through in certain sections of that flute. And with all the other kind of strings and that we're using, which have already got a lot of quite high frequencies in them, just decided I wanted to take out quite a bit of that kind of mid-range and high end where it was really quite painful on the ear, just to soften it out a little bit. All right, so let's have a look at what else we've got in there. We've got a string section, and this is a mixture of Mark's strings, and we're also using some strings from the Project Sam Free Orchestra for this line here. So let's just play you these strings together. So these have got some natural reverb on the recording of them. There's no reverb on those strings that I've added. It's just they're kind of already like that, which means they kind of sit nicely in the back of the mix, allowing the other instruments to do the work there pretty much with that. And that just complements the other lines that we've got in there. So we've got this other line with the brass sound. You may not notice it when it's actually in the mix, but it does actually add a little layer to that section. Now, the thing you may notice is the difference in musical notes that these are doing. So from our kind of original kind of plucky sounds, which are in a root key of F, the other lines that we've got working with this are actually in a root key of C. So they are notes that work together, and that's kind of what brings it all together. So if I play kind of like these musical elements all together, so you can kind of hear it without the percussion or the bass, and I won't put the flute line in there either. Let's start from here. So that's all those main musical elements together, apart from having the flute in there. You can hear that those kind of strings and the brass section bring in a little bit of warmth in there, and they've got a little bit of longer notes which work in between the pizzicato strings. Let's just play that little section with the flute so you can kind of hear it, the flute come in, and you'll see how the flute kind of lifts that kind of section. Now, at the moment, it may sound quite mid-rangey and high-endy because we've not got the bass line in there, but I'll add that in a minute. You can see how it all comes together. So now when we play it with the bass line, it will kind of bring that bottom end that's missing in there at the moment to really warm it up. And there you go. So all we've got left in there is the percussion really to hold it all together. We'll play it from actually that main section of where most of the instruments come in with the percussion as well. And there you go. So hopefully you've took some inspiration from this, maybe to kind of make your own very happy, upbeat song. If you've taken any tips from this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you guys on another video. Thanks for watching.